Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part 5 of Elite Prep's webinar series, The Road to Success. My name is Sharon Yu, and I am the branch director at Elite Prep Arcadia, where for the last 11 years, I've had the great privilege and honor of serving our families in the 626, which is in San Gabriel Valley in Southern California. So we are having these seminars or webinars. We've been hosting these webinars for the past few weeks because, first of all, we want to stay in touch with you during this time when we are unable to meet in person, but also because with the uncertainties of the circumstances surrounding COVID-19, we know that many of you have questions about college admissions in particular. And so we want to be a tool at this time and help guide you through these difficult times. And Elite's mission has always been to not just focus on our SAT programs, which we're very good at and are amazing, but our goal and our mission is to help students holistically work towards their life goals. So hopefully through today's webinar, we can add to that a little bit more for you today. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's agenda is the primary purpose of today's webinar is to talk about intellectual curiosity and how that's considered in the admissions process. So the purpose of today will be to address how a student's academic profile and intellectual curiosity is assessed in college admissions traditionally, and how, if at all, COVID-19 and surrounding circumstances will change that. So we're going to try to tackle this issue by answering some questions, just as we do in a class. So the questions that we're going to answer today are these. Number one, what is intellectual curiosity? How is it defined? Number two, how is it demonstrated on your college applications? And number three, what can you do now to build and enhance this part of your application? So let's tackle that first question. What is intellectual curiosity? And why is this so important to colleges? But before we answer this question, let me actually ask you, audience, what brought you here today? So I'm assuming many of you are here attending this webinar because of certain anxieties and concerns you have about the competitiveness of college admissions, especially in recent years. And I'm sure the current circumstances have added to those worries. And so many of you might be thinking, what if I cannot go to college? What if my chances are not as likely because of everything that's going on? But I believe that especially in times of uncertainty, it's important to ground ourselves in truth and in facts. And so let me lay down some facts for you guys. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, there are over 4,000 degree granting institutions in America, okay? Of these, about 1,400 of them are two-year colleges, but over 2,800 are four-year colleges. So if your question is, can I go to college? My answer to you is yes. If you really want to go to college, you will definitely be able to go to college. But the question is, what kind of colleges do I want to go to and why? That's the question that we are trying to, you should be thinking about right now at this juncture. So let's ask that question. Why do you want to go to college? So many of you might be thinking, well, because I want the prestige and reputation of that institution. I want to have a good career. I want to make lots of money. I want to study something in particular. I want to have some fun. I heard college is a lot of fun. Some of you honestly might just want to get away from your parents. But here's the thing, you guys, whatever other reason you have for wanting to go to college, if you want to go to college, you must enjoy studying or at least learning, because college is 4 more years of school. So what does this have to do with intellectual curiosity? Well, colleges want to know how intellectually curious you are, how well you understand what the purpose and the mission of college is. Curiosity is basically a desire to learn and grow intellectually. And what is college? College is 4 more years of learning and growing intellectually at a higher level than high school. So why do colleges want to know whether or not you're intellectually curious or how intellectually curious you are? Because number one, they want to make sure that if they admit you to their college, that you will make the most of the learning experiences that are provided at that university, that you will be an asset and a contribution to their institution. And number two, they want to know, do you have the academic and intellectual ability to handle the rigors of college academics? Do you know what it takes to survive at a college like ABC? That's why they want to assess your intellectual curiosity and your academic capabilities. So the next question we're going to answer is, how will they do this? How is intellectual curiosity demonstrated? What are they looking for in your college application? So let's think about what colleges are looking for in general. So we at Elite, we want to make sure, and we actually take great pride and also consider it a great responsibility to make sure that you are getting the most accurate information possible in regards to college admissions, SATs, and all of these things. And so in order to do that, we are affiliated with certain associations like NACAC, the National Association for College Admissions Counseling. And we try our best to hear directly from the source themselves. So whether it's college admissions officers or college board, we try our best to make sure that we are hearing and we're providing you with the most accurate and up-to-date information. So when we go to these conferences and when we, so NACAC has a conference each year where different colleges come together. Well, pretty much all colleges in the US come together, and they talk about the things that are most important in college admissions. And they provide a survey for all colleges that are in attendance. And by far and large, the number one thing that colleges consider most important in your academic or in your application process is your academic profile. We're going to talk about that in great length today. And number two, about 70% of colleges consider your standardized test scores to be also a key component in college applications. And thirdly, they're looking at about 40% of colleges are looking at things like extracurricular activities, personal family background. And then about 20% of colleges consider personal statements, letters of recommendation, and demonstrated interest as a key component of your college application. So number one, not all colleges are going to look at these factors, but most are going to look at the first two, academic profile and standardized tests. But no matter what, most of the competitive colleges that a lot of you want to apply to are, so colleges that are less than 30%, 40% acceptance rate will do some sort of a combination of these factors that are listed on this pyramid. So when colleges are looking through your application, every part of the application, colleges are looking for clues of intellectual curiosity. Every part of the application has embedded in it components or aspects of intellectual curiosity that they want to see from their students. So what does this mean in regards to your academic profile? Well, what is your academic profile? So let's start there. Your academic profile is pretty much your GPA and your course load. Okay, and what does that mean? What does that look like? What are they looking for? Academic profile, first of all, is usually evaluated in context to a lot of different things. Number one, what high school you are at, what district you are at, even things like your personal background, the education level of your parents, all of those things are also taken into consideration as they evaluate the more specifics of your academic profile. And this is what Randolph alluded to in his earlier seminar about holistic review. Most schools are not looking just at one isolated data. They're trying to make sense of all the different parts of your application that you've submitted, especially if it's a highly selective college. So when highly selective colleges are looking at your academic profile, the first thing that they're looking for, or one thing that they're looking for, is your course load. And what are they looking for with your course load? They want to know what type of courses you've chosen to take in high school. And so they're going to look at, are you taking academic classes or are you taking a lot of non-academic classes? And a lot of these classes are defined through your A through G course load that your counselors at school help you choose every year. But also a lot of non-academic classes are included in that A through G. And so students, right now, let's think about your schedule. Of your 6 to 7 periods of school, how many of those periods are non-academic classes? So if 3 of your 6 periods are marching band, concert band, and choir, about half of your classes are not academic, right? So if you are a college considering your academic profile, what would you see there? Would you see a student who is really engaged in their academics at school, or would you see a student who is more occupied with other aspects of high school life? Not that extracurriculars are not important, but what are they trying to determine with you? They're trying to see if you're academically capable and if you're intellectually curious. So they do want to know what type of classes you're taking in school. Also, they want to know how challenging your courses are. So they determine this by looking at the number of honors courses or AP or IB courses that you're taking at your local high school. Why does this matter to them? Because remember, college, okay, so where were we? So at course load, academic versus non-academic, honors classes and AP classes. So again, to jump back into where we left off, colleges are looking to see that, or when colleges see AP classes or IB courses in your course load, what they're able to affirm or confirm is that you are a student who's capable of taking more challenging courses that have been already vetted by organizations like College Board. And so it's important, especially if you're trying to go to a highly selective or academically rigorous university, they need to be assured of that fact. They need to know that you're going to be capable of handling harder coursework and that you have chosen to do that and not have opted for easier classes at school. What they're also looking at is they want to see that your classes are consistent with your stated interests. Sometimes, not always, but obviously there are core classes that you need to take at school no matter what. You have to take English, you have to take math, you have to take a foreign language, you have to take a social science. But for the classes that you choose to take, what are the courses that you are opting in for? Even in your AP classes, what are the AP classes that you are choosing to take? Because you don't have to take any AP classes if you don't want to, right? But which ones are the ones that you're opting to take? And that has to be relatively consistent with what you're stating as your interest. So for example, if you're a student who is interested in engineering, you probably don't want to stop your math at algebra 2, even though that's the only math or that's the level of math that's required for high school graduation or even for college admissions. You probably want to take the highest level of math possible at your school. And if the option is offered, you probably want to take a course like AP Physics to show that you are really interested in pursuing something like engineering. So for the most part, colleges are looking at this information too, and it has to be consistent. So for example, if you say, I want to be an English major at Columbia, but I choose to take English regular my senior year of high school, is that consistent, do you think? Probably not, right? So you don't want to raise any red flags. You also want to make sure that you are preparing yourself in the best way possible if you're preparing for these specific fields of interest in college. Also, they want to see what classes you're taking per year. They want to see if there is a progression or if there is an uphill trend in the classes you choose to take per year. So for example, if you had one honors class in 9th grade, they probably want to see that you up that challenge to 2, possibly even an AP class your sophomore year. And then in your junior year, they want to see that progression increase. And then ultimately, they want to have that culminate into your senior year. So at this point, some of our juniors might be asking, dang it, I worked so hard my sophomore year and junior year, and I was really hoping to take it easy my senior year and take regular classes because I heard that colleges don't really look at your senior year grades anyway. Well, there is some truth to that. There are some colleges that do not look at your senior year grades at all, or they cannot see it at all. But this does not mean they don't care about your senior year. In fact, colleges care the most about your senior year. Why? Because your senior year is the year right before you go to college, right? They want to know how you're doing your senior year because this is the lead up to the rest of the 4 years in college, right? So if you think about it too, as a graduating high school senior, do you want to take the easiest classes available to you at your school and then go to an extremely academically rigorous college the following year? Do you think you will be ready? Probably not. And that's exactly what colleges are thinking as well. So it's really important that you are growing and that you are intellectually engaging right up until the moment that you enter college. Okay. So what are they trying to determine with your course load? They're trying to measure your curiosity, okay? It's a measure of your curiosity, meaning they want to see how like what is your weighted versus your unweighted GPA, as well as some of you might even know terms like what is a capped GPA versus an uncapped GPA. But ultimately, with your weighted or with your GPA, what they want to assess is basically, essentially what they know is, are you a mostly A student, B student, or C student, okay? And what grades are you getting in the courses you've chosen to take, okay? So Weighted versus unweighted, there's a lot of nuances in regards to that. So if you have specific questions about how to calculate your GPA, weighted, unweighted, capped, uncapped, then please speak to your branch director. If I am your branch director, I'm more than happy to calculate your GPA with you and for you. But honestly, the essence of your GPA is they want to know what type of grades you're getting or what caliber of a student you are. So what does this mean? So what grades are they looking at? They're primarily looking at your 10th and 11th grade GPA. So yes, colleges will still request your 9th grade grades, okay? So unfortunately, for those of you who didn't do so well in 9th grade, they still want to see it. So most of how you met those challenges. So if you took an AP class, at school your sophomore year or your junior year, how well were you able to handle that course or that honors course? That's what they want to know. Also, they want to see your senior year grades. In terms of your senior year grades, they do want to see it, okay? So going back to what I said earlier, there are some colleges that will not get to see your grades at all because some of your applications will be due in November, some as early as October if you're applying to some out-of-state public schools. But and then most colleges' applications are due by beginning of January, which means by that point, some of you might not have your senior year grades for first semester yet. However, especially with everything that's going on right now, which I'll talk about a little bit more in extent in the next slide, they will want to see it. But again, that is why the weight will fall greater on your senior year courses. For UCs in particular, they will not be able to see your senior year grades at all until after you actually commit to that university. So even as you're applying, they do not request a mid-year report. It's just basically the classes you're taking your senior year they get to see. So for a lot of our juniors who were hoping to really make up for grades or do extremely well your senior year, unfortunately, that's not a possibility. However, this summer is a summer. If you do take classes during the summer, those grades will count towards your application. And so that's something that I'll touch on in a second, but that's something to think about as well. So sophomores, next year is a very crucial year for you. If you are freshmen, then sophomore year, junior year, those are the 2 years that you want to look forward to. And for juniors, finish out the school year strong, and we'll talk about what you can do at this point with all the situations or the circumstances that's around COVID-19. So what's your GPA to recap? What are we trying to establish here? What are colleges trying to establish here? They're trying to figure out how capable you are academically, right? And so how do we balance the two? So a lot of our students and parents will ask questions like, what's better, to take more AP classes and have a lower GPA, or to have a higher GPA but have fewer AP classes? The correct answer is have a high GPA, taking as many AP classes as you can. That's the correct answer, okay? But honestly, you have to create the right balance for you, okay? And what does this mean? Number one, challenge yourself in courses that you can actually handle, right? So if you're not really big on reading and writing, if it's really, really a struggle for you, don't take a class like AP US History your junior year. Or if math is not your jam, just take regular Algebra 2, just take regular pre-calculus and jump up to AP Calculus your senior year. So you want to make sure you're playing to your strengths, okay? So your goal should be, how do I get the highest GPA possible while taking the most challenging courses I can handle? Let me repeat that, okay? So I'm not saying highest GPA possible while taking as many AP classes as you can. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying get the highest GPA possible while taking as many courses, AP courses, as you can handle. So students, it's really important to know yourself. It's important to assess yourself. And it's also important to challenge yourself. So what I'm also not saying is, I'm not saying don't take challenging courses because you feel like you'll be bad at it. What I'm saying is, make sure that the balance is enough or right enough for you to be able to be successful in the classes you've chosen to take. So loading on your junior year with 5 AP classes that are really time consuming is not a great idea for most of our students. Some of you might be able to handle it, but you also want to bite off as much as you can chew. All right, so with the circumstances surrounding COVID-19, so what colleges are ultimately looking for is they're looking for progression and growth, okay? So each year, are you taking more and more challenging courses and growing as a student? Also, is there a market improvement in those years? So let's say you really started off your freshman year rough, but do we see a progression? Do we see growth in your sophomore year and therefore your junior year and your senior year? Even if you chose not to take any AP classes as a sophomore or a junior, are you upping that challenge by taking some AP classes as a senior? So colleges want to see that progression and that growth, as should you, right? We should, as people, even me as a grown adult, we want to continue to grow and develop as a person, right? And again, why is this important for colleges? Because this is what notes for colleges readiness for college, okay? So they want to know that you are capable and ready for the rigors of college life. All right, so COVID-19 concerns. So if you are a sophomore this year, what happens to this semester? Well, there are a lot of different things that are happening. A lot of college or a lot of schools are going pass, no pass, but there are also a lot of schools that are still giving letter grades to our students for second semester. So first, just be consistent and just be faithful in what you're doing. Try to do your best in the classes you're currently taking. Though most colleges will consider this semester a wash because, you know, the school systems are not apt to handle the transitions that happen so quickly. But still, it's better to get an A even in an online platform, even with only extra credit work to get it than to get a B, right? So students, stay consistent and try to do your best and finish off the semester strong. But you also have next year. So second semester, sophomores, even though this semester might not be as big of an impact, next year will be even a greater impact for you then. So first of all, make sure you've chosen good classes to take next year and make sure that, again, you're showing that growth and that progression. And also make sure that your performance in those classes are strong, right? So again, do not bite off more than you can chew. Make sure you're taking a challenge, but make sure it's a challenge that you can adapt to, okay? If you are a junior, I know it's a little bit more of a concern. And to be honest, yeah, there are definitely a lot of concerns surrounding our juniors this year, but first of all, it's not over, right? So again, second semester, even if the grades are not as, will not be considered with as much weight as in-person classes, still finish strong, right? The classes that you can get those A's in, try to get those A's and bring up your grades. But secondly, you can utilize this time, right? You have all this free time right now and over the summer, because many of you, your summer programs have been canceled. Utilize this time to take another class during the summer, either at school or online, or even through us. Elite has 4 credit classes that you can take, and even through a community college if you want to. But utilize this time to learn and delve into subjects that you might not be afforded in school. So make sure that you are showing colleges that you're not wasting this time. You're not just idly sitting by and just letting COVID-19 happen. You're taking all this free time as an opportunity to continue to engage intellectually and to grow your curiosities in subjects that you might want to pursue in college. And also read, right? If you guys want some book recommendations, I have tons. So you can always ask me. But also, I mean, I'm sure there are subjects and topics that you're interested in. So, try to do more reading, publications, books, whatever you can get your hands on. Utilize this time to grow intellectually. Also, make sure your 12th grade classes are strong. So again, your 12th grade grades might not be considered, but your classes are still being looked at, probably with even greater weight. So make sure that you have chosen good classes to take for next year. And if you are studying for AP exams, and if you still haven't taken your SAT exams, which I'll get to in a second, make sure you study hard for those as well. And if there are certain subjects that you might not have done so well in previously, then you might want to consider taking some subject exams to boost that or to supplement that. Just to be clear, subject exams cannot make up for any of your grades, okay? They're never as important as your GPA or the classes you're taking in school. However, standardized tests are added value. So if you do well, it can supplement or boost parts of your application that might not be as strong. All right, so the second part of your college application or that colleges consider greatly in your admissions process are standardized tests. So standardized tests, there are quite a few of them, SAT exam or ACT exam for just college admissions purposes in general. And then obviously the AP exams and SAT subject exams. So of these 3, only the SAT and ACT are mostly required. There are a lot of colleges, again, that are going test optional, especially for this year. But the reason why SATs or ACTs is still not fully, or colleges are not test blind. So Randolph talked about test blind versus test optional. The reason why is because every school, every teacher has a different grading system. And I know that you guys know this because all students know that there's perhaps an easier teacher that teaches AP chemistry and a harder teacher that teaches AP chemistry. And you always hope that you're going to get that easier teacher, right? So because of these discrepancies and these disparities in grading systems, colleges need some sort of objective exams, a standardized test that are same across the board for all students to kind of see where you're at. So even if you're a straight A student at your school, does this mean that you're actually college ready? How do they verify that? They look at your SAT scores and see if those two things match up. So again, SAT scores will not make up for poor grades, okay? In fact, sometimes if your SAT scores are too high and your school grades are not so strong, then actually it can hurt you more than help you because you're obviously smart but didn't try so hard in school. However, what it can do is verify that the grades you got in class or in school are consistent with how you're doing in comparison to the other students who are taking the standardized exams. So SAT, ACT are definitely added value tests that can help you kind of show colleges that you are college ready. AP exams and subject exams are not required by any colleges pretty much. However, again, okay, so while I'm getting that screen up there, so again, with these standardized tests like SATs, ACTs, and AP exams, again, they're not a substitute for your school grades and classes, but at the same time, they can help colleges see your strengths and weaknesses academically and your mastery in certain subjects. Okay, so moving on to the next point. So a lot of you might also be asking, well, I heard that certain colleges are going test optional this year. What does that mean for us? Or I've actually had a few questions, a few students ask me, well, isn't it better for me now that I don't have to take the SATs? But again, definitely this is a point that was made by Randolph and John last week. But again, colleges are not going test optional because they want to. So let me explain what that means. So let me show you actually some of the COVID-19 updates that colleges have made. So schools like Harvard have said it's still required. They know that there are fewer opportunities, but they actually believe that, you know, it doesn't matter how many times you take it, they just need to see how you do on one or two of them. So they still are requiring the test scores. Stanford, same thing. We are not adopting a test optional policy, and students will still be expected to submit scores until situations change. Can everybody hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, and then thirdly, Northwestern has also said at this point, there's still time for students to take the test, and therefore they still want you to take the exam. There are definitely schools that have gone test optional, and one main, a huge school that a lot of our students apply to are the UCs. But please note the way that they phrase this. UC is temporarily suspending standardized test requirements for students applying. And again, UC Santa Barbara a few days ago had the Office of Admissions held a webinar, and they reiterated that this is the UCs are not going test optional. And in fact, a few days ago, there was it was recommended by faculty, or there was a newspaper article that stated that a lot of faculty are still requesting that the SAT be a part of college admissions, at least for the next 5 years. And again, this is not because they love the test. It's not a perfect test, but it's because of the different school districts and different grading systems that make it hard for college admissions officers to make an objective decision. And so all of these different components and all of these additional information that you can send to colleges will, number one, add to your value if you do well on these tests. And secondly, it gives colleges another vantage point about you. Another school that went test optional recently is Cornell. But here's the thing, look what the bolded statement says. Overall, Cornell has not planned to adopt a test optional admissions policy permanently, and they still believe that the results of standardized tests will continue to demonstrate preparation for college level work. So again, these colleges are not necessarily doing away with the SAT or suspending it because they don't see value in it. It's primarily because of the circumstances that are surrounding COVID-19 at the moment. So students, it's so important for you guys to still try to take this test if possible, because again, You want colleges to have as much information about you as possible. So if you're able to study for this test, and if you're able to, through this test, demonstrate your college preparedness, then why not? This will be an added value to your application process. All right, so the last remaining three, which I'll try to breeze through, is your extracurricular activity, personal statement, or your extracurricular activity, personal statement, and recommendation letter. So this is what we lumped together as personal profile. So how can this possibly show college's your intellectual curiosity? Well, we want to think about what colleges are looking for and how the application is set up to begin with. So for most of you who have siblings or older cousins, you might know that college applications are usually streamed through two main platforms: Common Application for a lot of the private and public out-of-state schools, and the UC application. And in both of these applications, there is a section of the application that asks you for your extracurricular activities. What have you been doing in the last 4 years to contribute to your academic and also social, personal growth? And so in the Common Application, which is the next slide, they present you 10 slots on your application to write about your activities. And they give you these categories to choose for your activities. And all of the ones that are in red have to do with some sort of academic or intellectual growth. Okay, so whether it's academic, computer tech, speech and debate, robotics, science and math, all of these activities are correlated with some sort of intellectual curiosity or growth in that regard, right? So colleges want to know, what are you doing with your free time? Are you taking your free time to do additional things that help you grow as a student and as intellectually? And then for the UCs, so for the UCs, same thing goes for the UCs. What they categorize it in awards, honors, educational prep programs, extracurricular activities, other coursework, volunteering, community service, and work experience. But 3 of the 6 of the categories can denote or can note some sort of academic or intellectual interest and also achievements, right? So they want to know, so ultimately what they want to know is, what and how are you learning beyond your school requirements? So students, think about how you're spending your free time. Leadership is great, and it is definitely something that colleges are looking for. That's the quote unquote the hidden hidden ingredient, right, in your college application. But at the same time, they also want to know how you are challenging yourself beyond what the school curriculum that is provided for you. And they want to know, if you are interested in learning for 4 more years in college, what are you doing now to figure out what you might want to study in college? And so students, this is a great time to engage your mind and explore your curiosities to find out what are the things that you possibly might be interested in studying in college. The next part, part of your personal profile are what we call personal statements. There are a lot of different names for this. The UCs call it the personal insight questions. They're also sometimes referred to as college essays. But in these personal statements also, personal statements vary. Again, there are colleges that don't require personal statements at all. But for colleges that do, they have certain prompts that they want you to write on, certain questions that they want you to answer. And for especially the academically rigorous and highly selective colleges, they ask you very pointed questions like this. So Stanford's question, one of their supplemental questions is, Stanford's community is deeply curious and driven to learn in and out of the classroom. Reflect on an idea or experience that make you genuinely excited about learning. Actually, not just for students, but parents, can you answer this question? What is something that you're genuinely excited about learning? And if you don't have something that you're genuinely excited about learning, perhaps Stanford is not the right school for you, right? Also other prompts like Columbia. Columbia asks, please tell us from your current and past experiences, either academic or personal, what attracts you specifically to the field or fields of study that you noted in the member question. If you're currently undecided, which is fine, please write about any field or field in which you may have interest at this time. So again, they want to know what you're curious about. Columbia also asks you questions like this. List titles of the required readings that you enjoyed most in the past year. List titles of books you read for pleasure that you enjoyed most in the past year. And even counselors that are in this webinar today, how many of you can honestly say you have titles of books that you enjoyed in the past year? So students, if you're interested in a school like Columbia, they really want to know that you are well-read and well-educated or intellectually engaged through what you're reading, right? They also ask you a question about publications that you frequent, but I just didn't put it up there. Yale asks you questions like, think about a topic or an idea that has been intellectually exciting for you. Why are you drawn to it? Also, Chicago asks crazy questions that are very cerebral, that really try to determine whether or not you're intellectually engaged and curious. So you might be thinking, well, Sharon, these are crazy schools. I'm not going to apply to a school like Stanford. I don't want to apply to Yale. I'm just going to apply to the UCs. Well, even the UCs, as one of their prompts, has this. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this interest inside and or outside of the classroom. So again, inside and or outside of the classroom. They're not just asking, what did you learn in school that you thought was fun? So yes, you can talk about the labs you did in class, but they want to know, so if you were interested in those labs in class, what did you do as a follow-up? How did you build on that curiosity? How did you build on that interest outside of the classroom, right? Did you end up doing a research over the summer? Did you do some experiments on your own at home with your little brother? They want to know, okay? This is WashU's statement. They ask you, tell us about something that really sparks your intellectual interest and curiosity and compels you to explore more in the program area study that you indicated. So again, what they're trying to figure out is, are you actually intellectually curious, and how will you use that curiosity to drive your studies in college, okay? Schools like Chapman, tell us about your interest in your major, in the major you selected. This is Purdue. Describe briefly your reasons for pursuing the major you have selected. And USC, describe how you plan to pursue your academic interests and why you want to explore them at USC specifically. They're trying to assess what type of an asset you're going to be when you eventually come to their university. Are you going to be someone who maximizes their academic potential because you are driven to do so? Or are you someone that just got A's in school because you had to, right? Specific programs, especially those that are more selective, might have even more specific prompts. This is an example of USC's engineering prompts that they ask you. They ask you to learn about a challenge, and they ask you to tell you which challenge is most important and why. So again, they want to know how engaged you are intellectually. The third component of your personal profile, again, which is not requested or required by most universities, recommendation letters are usually only required by the highly selective universities or small liberal arts colleges that are really interested in knowing what type of students they're bringing into their classrooms. But when they do ask for these recommendation letters, these are the questions that are being asked of your teachers, okay, about you. They're asking your teachers to rank you, to kind of gauge where you're at in comparison to your classmates about your academic achievement. Are you someone who just achieves average, above average, the best in the class, the best the teacher has had in 10 years? They're also wanting to know if you have creative and original thoughts. These are verbatim things that are taken out of the recommendation letter. Do they show intellectual promise? Do you show intellectual promise? How is your quality of writing? What are your work habits like? So again, these are questions that are being asked of your teachers to tell about you. So a lot of our students might be really great students, really diligent students, very disciplined students that get A's in your academic classes, but are you demonstrating these things in your classroom? That's what you should ask. How are you showing your teachers, or how are you demonstrating your intellectual promise? And I want to be very clear, you don't want to do these things because you want to get into college. If you do these things naturally, you are a good fit for the colleges that are requesting this information, right? So again, it goes back to, why do you want to go to college? What are the things that you want out of college? And if those things are in line with the colleges, then these are the things that they want to see of you. So students, it's important not just to get that A, it's important to engage in what you're learning within your classroom, with your teachers and with your classmates, okay? So let's wrap this all up. What does holistic review actually mean? They want to see all of these different components of your application, okay? personal statement, declared interest, extracurricular activities, academic personal profile, recommendation letters. And through these things, they want to piece together the various aspects of you to paint a cohesive and complete picture of who you are. And through these different things, they want to see those hidden gems of intellectual curiosity, promise, and potential. Okay, so all of these things must come together, especially if you're applying to the highly selective colleges. Okay, so what should you do now to prepare? Okay, so this is the more subjective question that you really need to self-assess on. Okay, so number one, be a good student, right? Make the most, maximize your academic potential. Okay, so what does this mean? So number one, take good classes at school, right? Take classes that are challenging you and helping you grow as a person, not just classes that you know for sure you're going to get that A in, which is important. Again, your GPA is important. You want to get that A, but you also want to take a class that's going to challenge you intellectually and help you figure out what you might want to study in the future, right? And secondly, get good grades. Okay, so get good grades. Again, the idea is you don't want to take classes that you're going to fail miserably in. You want to take classes that you have interest in, because that is, you know, a lot of times that's correlated with your performance in the class. And secondly, you want to take classes that are going to be manageable for you, right? So as you choose your classes, choose classes that you can potentially get good grades in as well. Side note, a lot of our students, when they do not get good grades, they have certain reasons for those poor grades. Number one, a lot of our students will tell us, my teacher just sucks. My teacher never teaches, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes the truth hurts, and reality is a lot of teachers are not amazing. Okay, there are amazing, exceptional teachers, but a lot of them are not so great. And this is not just true for high school, it's also true for college, you guys. And so if you're waiting for someone to be an amazing teacher and teach you the wonders of the world, unfortunately, that's not how it works. If you're really curious about something, if you're really interested in something, you have to find a way to learn and grow with or without that teacher. Okay, so don't use it as an excuse. Find ways to adapt and improve as a student. Secondly, I don't like the subject. So I'm going to point to that fixed versus growth mindset right here. There are a lot of students who say, oh, you know, math is just not my jam. And that was actually me when I was in high school. But it doesn't matter if it's your jam or not, right? Certain core subjects, you just need to show proficiency, because a lot of these colleges, especially the highly selective colleges, believe that a lot of these disciplines are interrelated. So it doesn't matter if you are a scientist, you should still be expected to know math and also culture and history and how this all relates to each other. So don't let the subject not being your interest be the reason why you don't do well. Again, it's about growing and developing as a person. Even if you don't like it, find ways to improve and challenge yourself and grow in that subject. Third, I have too many extracurricular activities. For students who are saying this, let me just say to you, are you going to college to pursue your extracurricular activities, or are you going to college to pursue a degree in an academic subject? So if your answer is the latter, then what matters more at this point? That you're growing as a student or that you're growing in your extracurriculars? So yes, it is important to have extracurriculars. It is a part of your application that is evaluated and assessed. However, it's never as important as your GPA or your grades. So again, make sure you're balancing your time and your resources and your opportunities. I study, but I still get back grades. So this one I do, it is unfortunate. This does happen quite a bit, but here's the thing. Again, don't be stumped by this, and don't be discouraged by it either. Just because one approach didn't work doesn't mean that it's not going to work. So find ways to adapt, find ways to grow and troubleshoot, right? And the better you can do this, the more successful you'll be in the long run anyway. If you're always relying on someone, a teacher, a tutor, or someone to help you get your good grades, then later on, what are you going to do? You're going to take a tutor to your job or to college? You probably can't, right? So it's important for you to troubleshoot and find ways to grow and adapt, even if at first you don't succeed, right? And definitely ask for help. Take advantage of the many resources available. Actually, asking for help is a vital skill. A lot of students don't want to because of pride or because of et cetera, but honestly, knowing when to ask for help and when it's necessary is really important. So if there's a subject that you're really struggling with and you've been trying all these different methods, but you're being stumped, then ask for help. There are people and there are resources available to help you. Your parents are attending this webinar because they want to help you, right? So take advantage of that. And thirdly, enjoy the learning process. Remember what college is. College is 4 more years of school. So make sure you actually enjoy the process of learning, engaging, being curious, finding answers. This is really, really important. And 4, this will also help you. This will lead you to help start figuring out what you might want to study in college. So this is all accumulation, a progression, and a growth, right? All right, so next, and Elite can help with all of this. So come, we will help you with anything that you need help with. Not everything, but academically and college-wise, we will help you. And secondly, engage and grow intellectually. Discover and explore your curiosities. So especially now with all this free time, and especially this summer when a lot of extracurricular activities are no longer available to you, what can you do? Well, there are tons of things you can do. Number 1, like I said, read. So again, I don't have all these books back here because I'm smart. I have all these books back here because I'm not smart and I want to be smart. I want to learn and I want to gain knowledge, right? So what do you want to learn about? What are you curious about? In what aspects of your life do you want to grow? And then read about it. Read about it, grow in it, and that's a great first step. Second, you can take courses at a local community college. Though you might not be able to take it in person, they offer online courses. You can also take online courses with us, especially this spring and the summer, especially if you want a little bit more accountability than you would in a normal online program. Learn a skill, okay? Take this time to learn how to code. Take this time to learn how to knit. Take this time to learn how to use PowerPoint or Excel, right? So this is a great time for you to just be bunkered at home and find a skill that you want to learn. Secondly, do an online internship or research. Again, some of these programs might require some money, but not bad. Not a bad way to spend your time. It's better than doing nothing, okay? Or compete in something. So last week, John announced to us the exciting different competitions that CFGL is hosting this year. Compete in that. And it's not just CFGL. There are a lot of other competitions out there, writing competitions, art competitions, journalism competitions. So take your pick, robotics competitions, take your pick and engage in something and compete in something, have fun. Start a blog, start a club, start a business organization. Again, these are all growth experiences, right? You're learning and developing your certain skill sets. So do it, engage in something, learn how to do something new. Be proactive and take ownership of your time and your resources. So let's quickly recap. I know we lost a lot of time because of my technical issues, but number 1, what is intellectual curiosity? Remember, it is a desire to learn and grow intellectually, right? Why do colleges want to see it? Because that's what college is. It's the opportunity to grow intellectually and academically. So they want to see that you are intellectually curious because they want to know that you are someone that will come to their university and make the most of the resources and time you have there. Number 2, how is it demonstrated? How is your intellectual curiosity demonstrated? All throughout the college application, mainly through your academic profile, but also through your standardized tests and your personal profiles, including extracurricular activities, personal statements, and even recommendation letters. And number 3, what can you do now? So much, right? Find things to be curious about and grow and learn. So ultimately, colleges want to know, did this student maximize his or her educational life and life opportunities, right? Show them that you did, okay? Also, it does not need to be a stressful process. College applications might seem overwhelming, but it's actually a very exciting time because look, you are looking to grow and improve as a person, and college is a great platform and a great opportunity to do that. So please be intentional. Don't just think about college as a stepping stone or something you have to do as a rite of passage. Think about what college actually means to you and what college could do for you during those 4 years or 5 years that you're there. So be intentional about what you're thinking and how you're proceeding in this process, okay? So number 1, establish good habits. Number 2, start living out the characteristics that are important for your future now. And number 3, be intentional with your time and resources. And again, Elite is here to help you if you want it, okay? We have virtual diagnostic tests now available for the SATs. We have SAT summer programs. We have online AP courses that you can take for credit. We have tutoring if you need help with your academics. We have counseling if you want to talk about all these things with the counselor. We also have CFGL competitions, those exciting competitions that you can enter and engage your curiosities in. So please come talk to us. We're here to help. And if you have any questions, don't forget to go to our website, contact your local branches, and hopefully we'll be able to help you there. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for bearing with me through all the technical difficulties. I hope there was something that you gained from today's session. And we look forward to seeing you next week for our next webinar. Have a great evening, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.